Hey, Dave Melenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. As you know, each week I do my best to scour the world. We had to go up into Canada today, so don't hold that against her. But the cool part is I don't hear the accent, so I think that you guys will be okay with that. But I want to start kind of with a question because I think I know the answer, but I want to ask it anyway. Who here doesn't want success? Right? I think success is one of those things that we really strive for. It can mean so many different things to so many different people. And so we're going to talk about the alignment of your thoughts and your actions and your beliefs, and how when you align those, that really affects your success. Now, I wish I would have thought of that, but I didn't. So that's why I have Lauren Saunders here. How are you today, Lauren?
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Dave.
Awesome. Excited to unpack this. A business mentor working on a ton of stuff, which we'll unpack. So that's totally cool. Thank you for hanging out with us today. So in your, in prepping for this, I find out that you used to be a school teacher. And so you jumped from, I'm going to say, corporate America, right? You jumped from the safety of a job, and then you kind of all of a sudden went into being an entrepreneur. So can you unpack that for us? Because there's a lot of people listening that want to do that exact thing, but they are either deathly afraid or, quite frankly, don't know how. So how did that come about for you, Lauren?
Yeah. So I definitely never saw myself as an entrepreneur or thought that this life was available to me. I went to school for visual arts and then teaching, and that's what I did after university. And I did a bit of teaching overseas in Australia for a couple of years before moving back home to Toronto, where I really struggled to get full time work as a teacher. But I also had this, intuitive knowing or just intuitive interruption, if you will, of like, there has to be something more for me, and I think a lot of people really feel that, especially in the age of the internet, where we see that there are so many people making a way for themselves and really allowing themselves to experience freedom that I believe we're meant to have in this
Sure.
life, that we usually don't. So I really felt like, I was looking for full-time work. Teaching is an incredible career, but I didn't feel excited at the idea of doing it for the next 40 years. But at the same time, I really didn't know, as you said, how I was ever going to. I didn't really think that being a business owner was a possibility for me. I'd never seen myself that way. I didn't go to business school. What ended up happening was I was just playing around in different ideas. I had met a friend in my travels who had an online business, a subscription service that he was making like just tens of thousands of dollars on a month. And he was a year older than me. And while I'm sitting at home in my parents' living room after moving home from Australia, looking for teaching jobs and not finding anything with, a couple $1,000s to my name, he's a year older than me, flying around the world first class, working 4 or 5 hours a week, and just, and I'm going like, that's an option. Like, I didn't anyway. So I started reading some of the books that he recommended. One of them, and the first entrepreneur book I ever read, was called The 4 Hour Work Week. And I think that what that did was just open me up to possibility. And what ended up happening was I got a part-time teaching job in Toronto. My parents are from about an hour north of here. So I wanted to move to Toronto. And I got 2 days a week working as a high school art teacher in a private school here in Toronto. And I knew that obviously 2 days a week worth of work wasn't enough. And so what I decided to do was start my first business, which was just meant to be a side hustle. And it was, believe it or not, an eyelash extension business, which I got the idea for from a friend who I'd met in Australia, who was an esthetician, and she'd made a lot of money and a very successful life for herself by doing eyelash extensions from home. And with my art background, I just thought that's totally something I could do. So I just I got trained, I got certified, and it was just sort of like, I mean, everyone thought I was crazy. I was like, I'm moving to Toronto. I've got 2 days a week worth of teaching, and I'm going to start doing eyelash extensions. And my parents were like, "You what is an eyelash extension?" Um, and it really was in my mind just something, like I said, a few $100s each week I was hoping to make so that I didn't have to get a second part-time job. But what how it ended up going for me was that it really blew up and I had a full-time clientele within a few months. And while I knew that I didn't want to work full-time, doing lashes for the rest of my life, I it had shown me that not only was I able to make great money for myself, but that I loved the freedom that came with it. I loved making my own schedule. And it just kind of proved all of my sort of limiting beliefs wrong, that I couldn't be a business owner, right? So flash forward a couple of years into that business, and I decided to leave teaching because I really wanted to do something online. I wanted to have more freedom, and I wanted to create content. I wanted to help other people with their businesses, and so I actually built an online community that was for lash artists.
Mm,
And I started coaching people around both manifestation, mindset, and marketing. I'm really, really big on energy, alignment, and the power of your mindset, the power of your thoughts in order to create success in your life. So that again really took off for me. I mean, it was a lot bumpier than I'm making it sound. It took a while figuring things out and failing before it started working. But once I started making that money online, helping other people with their businesses, I'd already left teaching. I decided to retire my lash business and do some traveling. And that was about 2 years ago now. And I no longer coach lash technicians or eyelash extensionists.
sure.
I help now almost exclusively other coaches and course creators to take their skills online, develop them into offers in the form of courses, memberships, etc. And grow a successful six-figure and beyond business for themselves doing what I do. So I'm a
Wow.
business mentor, like I said, mainly working with other coaches and course creators, and I really focus in on mindset and what I call aligned marketing, which is really just like authentic marketing that feels good to you as the individual.
Holy cow, there is a ton there. So thank you for that overview. I wrote a bunch of stuff down. So we're gonna kind of circle our way back. I mean, for people, I remember when somebody asked me, Lauren, what do you what do you see as success? How would you define success? I mean, I know that really put me in a tailspin, and it wasn't just like an afternoon tailspin. I mean, it was months and months of trying to really unpack that, because for you, you mentioned freedom a couple times. That becomes, your success. Everybody's success is a little bit different. I mean, some people might think of jets or travel or, houses or, money, more money than you could ever, you know, work with, whatever. But I think that, I want to start just to make sure you don't really define success for people. You pretty much let them define that on their own. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we want success or an amount of money for the life that we believe it'll make available to us. So, and that's different things for different people. For me, it was the freedom to be able to work from anywhere, but also, and this took a little while because I used to define success by like, okay, well, once you're making 10K a month, that's success. The problem with that is that you're always sort of like reaching for more and it never feels like enough when you're measuring it, monetarily like that. For
Right.
me, now what success is that I wake up every day with things things on my to-do list that I absolutely love to do and conversations like this one throughout the day, every day. And it's a bonus that I make a lot more money now than I used to working as a full-time teacher in Australia, doing these things that I like truly, truly love. So for me, the success is like each day I have a lot of enjoyment in what I'm doing. It doesn't feel like work for me and great money doing it as well.
Yeah, and so I think that's thanks for sharing that, because I think it's really important for us to really be able to sit comfortably with what the definition is of success for each individual, because your definition and mine, if they're not the same and we aren't okay with that, then all I'm trying to do is match your success. All you're trying to do is match mine, or you're trying to coach me to your way, whatever it is. I mean, I wrote a book and it was Amazon #1 bestseller. That may or may not be exciting for some people. Some people are like, wow, that'd be awesome. Other people are like, yeah, so. And again, I have to be okay in my own skin with my mindset is, to your point, mindset's a great word. My mindset is it really was important for me and I did it for certain reasons. if you never do it, boy, I'll support you, yay or nay, right? So I think it's important to start at that success spot. I also wrote down bumpy because I love the fact that you said it was bumpy, and I think it's fair to say that, we see, so you envision like everything just aligning, the stars aligning, everything falls into place. And I was looking on your website or parts of it and saw this didn't work and then this didn't work, and I'm like, whoa, this is kind of cool, because so often we think, of a successful person, whoever that is in your mind, and pick a Michael Jordan as a basketball star or whatever, whatever you think of when you think of success. It wasn't like the guy picked up a basketball and he never missed another shot the rest of his life, right? So how do you kind of help people once they understand what that success is? I mean, where do the alignment, where do the thoughts and the actions and the beliefs, how once we kind of have that vision of what, success is, what's kind of the next step there, Lauren?
Yeah, the next step is really just taking the actions as they come to you and the ones that feel good. I have a real sort of spiritual approach to my business, um, which is for me, I've never know exactly, how things are going to unfold. I don't think any of us can. And I didn't even when I started, I didn't even know exactly what it was that I was creating. But I just kind of was curious about the things that felt exciting to me, right? So starting a lash business, I never in a million years could have imagined how that was going to change my life. I thought I was going to make a couple $100s a week, but it felt inviting and it felt like, well, the worst case scenario is I, invest $1,500 into getting this started and then that's it. Like it was an experiment and I get a
Yeah,
job server, whatever, like not the end of the world, right? So I think people need to allow themselves to explore and to not feel that they need to have it all figured out before they can take action because you never will. And I definitely wasn't believing that I was going to be a huge successful business owner when I started just kind of following those intuitive nudges, if you will. So
sure.
if you have a general idea of what you're wanting, and why you're wanting it, that vision as you're talking about, and then just allow yourself to kind of be led there and kind of just follow what feels fun, right?
Yeah,
Might starting a writing a book, it might be starting a blog, it might be starting a podcast, it might be, just like just letting yourself be led towards what feels good and being in a place of discovery about it rather than thinking you need to have it all figured out before you can
sure.
take it.
So I have a question for you that brings up something. Why, and maybe you don't know the answer, but I bet you have a great insight on this. Why would a human being not give themselves permission to explore? I
Oh
mean, I
my god.
feel like that's really like, oh my gosh, what? There's no boundaries, there's no real, there's nothing, there's no rules, there's no guidelines, there's nothing. It's just like you can explore. So, why is that so hard for people, do you think, Lauren?
Because we take life way too seriously. A lot of the times, what I'm telling people to do is like, just chill out a little bit. Like, we're on this big spinning ball in the middle of a universe we don't understand. Like, this could very well be a simulation. Like, we just don't even know what we're doing. We're we allow our lives to be led by fear so that what we can all end up dead in the end anyways. So
Yeah,
I think that there's like we place a lot of significance around our decisions and everything's very like calculated. And a lot of that comes back to fearing people's opinions, fearing that we might try and fail at something.
yeah,
Uh, that's a really big one. People, like you said, like Michael Jordan didn't just pick up a basketball, but we think, well, if I start a business, I don't want to risk it failing and other people knowing that I failed.
right.
Uh, so I like to encourage people just to be a lot more playful and explorative for the sake of having fun.
Sure.
Like start a business idea today or a creative project today and it doesn't go anywhere. Well, at least you had fun in the process. Couldn't
Yeah.
that be a measure for success that takes the pressure off?
Right? Yeah, 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 that would probably not be in most people's top 5 when they create their success, the words. I don't think fun is one, because it's work, right? It's like the opposite of fun. There's either fun or work. You can't have both. And so that's what I think is really is awesome about business ownership. I know for me, I struggle with if my calendar isn't like filled, then I'm looking at this going, like go sit down and like, I don't know, whatever. And it's like, no, 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 back to work, back to work. You got this. So I don't know where that innate thing comes in with people, but I fight that on a regular basis. And I know for me, it was funny because I explored something for all of 30 minutes in my life where I wanted to raise bees, and I wanted to make honey. And like, I'm like all excited. How hard can this be? Right. Well, I watched two 15-minute, probably 112 and 115-minute videos on YouTube about how incredibly like complicated this is. Right. And I realized after 30 minutes of exploration, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll be happy to go to the store and buy the the honey and it oozes out and I'm set. Right. So I think, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. And I try to encourage people that same thing, explore, expand. It doesn't cost anything to kind of think outside the box a little bit. So do you find people that you work with, is it hard for them to do that exploration?
Yeah, because there's especially earlier on in their business, they're wanting to control. And I mean, I'm no exception to this in
Yeah.
the we want to have a plan. We want to see how things are going to work out. If I'm going to make this investment, in a coach or in a website or in a funnel or Facebook ads or whatever, I want to see how it's going to work out. And that's really like this avoidance of any level of discomfort. And I really encourage my clients to get very clear on what they want in terms of, what success looks like for them and visualize that. And then, like I said, allow for the guidance to come. And a lot of people really struggle with that. They're like trying to figure it out. And the thing about that is that we can't think our way to we can't we don't we're where we're at right now is not having success, right? So to think that we know the pathway there just doesn't make any sense. You only know the pathway there once you're there and you're looking backwards.
Sure.
So actually taking yourself to the place of having what you want, in your mind, imagining it, writing about it, thinking about what that will feel like, and letting the way your brain works is it'll start to inspire ideas for you that are aligned with where it is that you're going. To answer your question, a lot of people really struggle with that because we want to control, we want to minimize, risk.
Right.
Uh, but you have to just kind of get to a place where you're okay with the not knowing, because as a business owner, you never know.
Right. Yep.
Never, there's no guarantee. It's not cushy, in terms of like we've really grown up to associate, a security with a paycheck, and you have to be willing to let go of that. It's uncomfortable. And even what you were saying about having to work a lot, that's like a subconscious association you've created that most of us have
Yep.
around we need to work full-time hours in order to be worthy of a full-time income, which isn't actually true, because there's a lot of people with billions of dollars who barely work at all, right?
Right.
They
Yep.
don't associate
Yep.
hard work and a full schedule with making lots of money, but because you have that association, you're going to require it of yourself, right?
Right.
So anyways, I don't know how that answers your
No,
question.
that's awesome. And the funny thing is, Lauren, is that, people do assume that, like I have clients that if you don't work, if somebody on their team isn't working nights and weekends, then like they're not committed, they're not successful, they're not a team player. They have these mindsets that are just kind of jaded, and I was raised, I mean, my business partner years ago told me, he said, you know what? And this will date me because he said, if I see you in a Kmart in the middle of the day, he said, I could care less as long as your stuff's getting done. Right. And I, that's always stuck with me. And ever since then, I've owned my own business. And so I am the one that kind of like I feel like you said worthy. What are you doing at Kmart in the middle of the day? I mean, there's like these thought processes. It's so funny, like even on vacation. And I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but it's weird because like if I'm off for a week, I feel more guilty being off on a Monday than on a Saturday. And like, it's just like so weird. I don't get it, but that's just, how I am. So how does that, obviously you talk about aligning thoughts, actions, and beliefs, how do you like rework some of those if I don't want that to guide or dictate or rule my existence anymore? Are there ways to kind of recalibrate my brain?
Yes, absolutely. So I love talking about the subconscious brain. I think it's so interesting. But essentially, what it comes down to is that our subconscious is responsible for over 95%. I've heard up to 99%, but let's just go with 95% of the 60 to 70,000 thoughts that we as human beings think on a day-to-day basis. So we think that we're choosing our thoughts, but 95% of them are actually subconscious.
Okay.
The subconscious is programmed through repetition. So you have basically like a neural pathway. Think of it like a muscle. The thoughts that you regularly think become hardwired into your brain. You build like muscles to support those thoughts so that it's really easy for you to run this program. You don't have to put a lot of energy into the types of thoughts that you're thinking on. Imagine you had to consciously choose 70,000 thoughts in a day.
Sure.
You wouldn't have anything else. So the body conditions those neural pathways to make it really easy. And that happens through repetition. So what you can start to do is decide a new thought that supports, working less or being able to take time off, and actually start affirming that for yourself. And with repetition, you can overwrite that old program
Okay.
with a new belief that says the less I work, the more money I make. Because I promise you, there's lots of people out there who that's true for, but they had to first start to believe that. And one of the fastest ways we can overcome some of those limiting beliefs is to find evidence for its falsity, right? So if you want the belief to be, I don't have to work, I can make as much money as I want in 20 hours a week, and I can have lots of freedom, or whatever the new belief is for you.
Sure.
You go and find people who that's true for, because then you're kind of proving wrong this belief system that you have, which says I have to be working 9 to 5 during the week, and I can't take vacations, and I have to feel guilty about it, and all this kind of stuff. It's not true. It's just that that's the program that you have running, and so that's the life that your subconscious is allowing you to create.
Wow. So let me throw a wrench in this for you. You okay with wrenches?
Bring it on.
Okay. So what if I really like to work?
Yeah. I mean, I love to work. When I don't work, when I'm taking like, especially a lot of time off, like in December, for instance, I find that I really get into this place of like, I need purpose, and I like, what am I even doing?
Yeah.
So I really like to work, but I also like, you can find the balance that suits you. From what you've told me, it's probably not really serving you that you don't deserve to take a Tuesday off and go to Kmart or go to
Yeah.
Home, whatever, right? So what would it look like so that you had both, where you felt freedom, and that freedom included working when you wanted to work, which is probably, most days, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, most of us do love what we're doing, right? But how can you, so for me, I want to work not every day. I like taking days off, especially on the weekends when I can, but I would never want to just not be working. That would sound so boring to me. There's so much satisfaction in like the creation and the watching things evolve. What feels good to me is like, after this, I'm gonna go to Costco and to Whole Foods and um, you know, do some errands. And it feels really good that on a Wednesday I have that freedom to design my schedule. So but
Sure.
that's what suits me personally.
And that makes sense. And I appreciate that. I'm just trying to like think about the person listening, thinking, wow, oh my gosh, I like to work, or, I couldn't imagine not working. I mean, I'm in my 50s, 56, whatever. And I think about like retirement, and it's like, oh, it's kind of like, yeah, no, right. I mean, my head shakes no like a bobble doll right away, because it's like, oh, what would I do? There is purpose there. There is fulfillment there. There is success there, whatever that, defines. So, I mean, that's what the cool part is, I think, about talking with you, Lauren, is that we don't have this predetermined, pre-canned, definition of success. It just, you define that, and then you start aligning the thoughts and the actions and the beliefs. So as we move from thoughts into actions, then how, I, I struggle with people that say, well, fake it till you make it type thing. I struggle with that. And maybe that's a blind spot that I need to work on. How do you align your actions with your success? If your success is way up here and you're way down here, how do you align those two? I'm curious.
The fake it till you make it thing really comes from a place of lack. Like, I don't feel that I'm worthy or good enough, but I'm going to pretend that I
Okay.
am. And the problem with that is I really believe, in all things energy. So your vibes don't lie, essentially. If you're coming from a place of not good enough and I need to pretend to be someone that I'm not in order for people to want to listen to me, you're still coming from this place of lack of success, essentially. And that's what you're going to get in return, no matter the actions that you're taking.
Okay.
In terms of, taking action that's aligned with your success and being able to do that, you want to look at, like, it's about your identity. So who you are for yourself is going to dictate how easy it is for you to show up in alignment, taking action on a daily basis that's leading to your success. When you think about someone who's just uh, very naturally fit. They love going to the gym. That's not something that they're not faking it till they make it. They just are that person that loves going to the gym. It's part of who they are. Right. So in regards to, taking action that's in alignment with your success, you want to look at what is in the way of me believing or seeing myself in this identity already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is
So
it more I'm assuming it's more intentional then, right? I mean, it becomes like I don't even like the people you just referred to that, they just look at the gym equipment and they have zero body fat. I mean, that's just wrong right there to begin with, right? And but I mean, I'm trying to understand this action piece because this is where I feel like, okay, I'm going to shine here, right? I may suck at my thoughts, I may suck at my beliefs, but man, my actions, I'm going to make up for lost time. So I'm trying to help people listening to understand how, our actions can end up,
mm,
with working towards our success. And maybe it's as simple as your actions are working, doing what you need to do, those things that will eventually create that success for you. I just kind of wanted to get your version of it.
yeah, I mean, there's I take action in my business every single day that is uncomfortable, um, that I have fear around, but that I do anyways. And I think that that's probably a distinction that's really worth looking at, because a lot of people think if the action is uncomfortable for me, I shouldn't do it, or I need to wait until I'm not fearful, because all the people that I'm watching who are successful, they don't have fear. This is easy for them, as
Yep.
opposed to it's like, well, no, they have fear, but they just choose to do it anyways. And the thing about essentially it's confidence that you're speaking to, like taking a lot of action very confidently and having that lead to your success. Confidence comes from competence, and comes from just diving in. So I think that there's a lot to be said about taking action that feels uncomfortable, knowing that it has to get easier for you and it's ultimately going to lead you. I used to feel so nervous going live on Facebook. It was really uncomfortable for me.
Hmm.
Couldn't control, I couldn't go back and edit it, right? It was live. But I've just done it over and over and over. And now it's
Sure.
this, people constantly comment on how natural it is for me. And I sell all kinds of programs through live streams, but I had to take that action long before it felt good for me to do it. Right. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think,
I appreciate that because I'm just, I mean, you can only control certain things. And like you said, the more, certain people can want to control more than others. I mean, my parents taught me there were three types of people. There were people that watch things happen, there were people that make things happen, and then there were people that don't know what's happening. So there was kind of like you can choose which camp you want to be. And there's certain days where I just like to watch things happen, but the vast majority of days I want to make something happen. And because of that, I don't want to do it 60 hours a week. I would if I had to. I don't have to. I mean, so I think my success is kind of taking shape. Does success seem to is it a moving target at times in your life where it changes, matures, morphs into other things? Do you see that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started my online business, I really just wanted to be remote. Like I wanted to be able to replace a teaching salary, which was probably around 50 or $60,000 online so that I could, make a full-time income working wherever I wanted. And I did end up doing that. But then once I got back to Toronto, I'd done some traveling with my business. Once I got back to Toronto, at that point, it really became about that next level of wealth, multiple six figures and moving into seven figures. And at this point, like what I'm really wanting to build is a multi-million dollar brand. And that's the action that I'm taking. That's what I'm taking action towards right now. I'm hiring people for my team. I'm starting to do Facebook ads for the first time. I've got bigger outreach, like just all of these things that are now aligned with that goal. But
Sure.
previously, it was a very different vision of success that I then hit. And for me, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, we're expansive people. So there's some people who, they'll hit a certain income level and that's where they want to stay. They're happy. But I think for most of us, we're sort of like it's a self expansion. You're always wanting to grow. So you're going to hit that first vision of yours if you keep working towards it. And it's only natural that it's going to grow. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Well, what do we do now?
So you talk about energy a lot. So I want to, hey, this is my show, so I can ask you whatever I want, right? So are you what energy do you feel right now from me? What are you getting from this conversation? And just, let her rip. And if we don't like it, we'll have Katie cut it out. But, I'm just curious because, I love to learn more about myself. I love to be able to help people, so I'm jumping in with that action of asking that question.
Yeah. Well, before I answer that, maybe you could tell me
Yeah.
a little about your business,
Okay.
where it's how long you've been working on it and where you are desiring to go with it.
Wow, great question. So I've been doing it for about 8 years. I started in 2013, so 9 years or so, 8 or 9 years. And the interesting thing for me is I'm not motivated by money. My success isn't even work less. My success is to be like strategic and intentional so that I love to speak. So I would love to grow my speaking business, even more. Obviously, COVID took a chunk out of that, but I love traveling around a couple times a month and just, sharing, helping people with their success. So just in telling you this, it's really loose. It's not like I have A, B, C, and D, and I want to hit A by the time, in the next 12 months, B in 18 months. I don't have that. And so maybe that's again, a blind spot that I need to work on because at times I just exist. I have clients that call me. I meet with people every week. Some people I meet with every month. So, I could cruise control it if I wanted. And that's one of the big reasons I love doing my podcast is it forces me into, a growth and a learning pattern. So that's my kind of thought process. So that's why I'm curious if I'm aligned, if there's some alignment issues there, or what your thoughts are. So
Um, so what I'm getting is what's a motivator for you is impact
uh-huh.
and helping people. And I think it's totally legitimate that you'd say, I'm not really motivated by money. I have what I need. And that's success for you, right? So I think
Hmm.
that and I also see you taking a lot of empowered action, like you having me on the podcast and
Right.
putting your voice out there. So you're taking a lot of action, which has to actually come from belief. So it's interesting because you said, I'm not really big into the belief stuff, or you didn't quite say it that way, but action is where I excel. But action is only a reflection of our thoughts. You wouldn't be even sitting here with me if you didn't have belief in
Right.
your value is, where you're going, you definitely wouldn't have a number one bestseller if you didn't believe in your ability to help people. That
Sure.
just not have ever happened. So I'm hearing all of that. What I would probably point out, and I haven't known you, so
Yeah.
more than, these 20 minutes or so,
Yeah.
but what I'd probably point out is what are sort of the limits that you're placing around yourself in terms of how we place limits on ourselves around, well, I want to speak to people, but COVID, or
Yep.
I want to reach more people, but I have guilt around working too much, or I'm kind of making these up.
Yeah,
I think
no, that's exactly right. I did put that's that you say that's exactly right. Oh, I would, but fill in the blank, whatever happens after I would, but. So that's
whereas
great.
you could be you could be speaking to thousands of people or working towards that online right now. I also know that there are speaking events happening in the States and
Yep.
Canada so much. Um, but there's always the possibility that we want is always available to us. But our job is to do the work to see it that way,
Okay.
right? That's all that I would say is I think that you're actually like you're moving forward, you've had success, you're showing up, you're taking action, you love
Okay.
what you do. That's very apparent, but there's ways in which you're capping yourself or having that but come in. And really, I mean, I can give you a quick like sort of reframe for that.
Yeah.
Whenever anytime we have a but come in, it's like we're canceling out what we just said. I want to go on vacation, but I don't have any
Right.
money.
Yep.
And that's that like, well, I can't do it because, right? And we just close ourselves off to all possibility that there
Right.
ever was for that thing to happen.
Yep.
If you replace that but with an and, so I want to speak to thousands of people. I'm just going to use this as an example.
Sure.
And it's a global pandemic. Now it's like a solution oriented statement as opposed to one that cancels out the possibility for the thing that you wanted,
That's
right?
awesome.
Now it's like, and there's a global pandemic going on. Okay, well, is that look? Because there's more people speaking in more places now than there ever has been. Most of it is virtual, yes, but there's an opportunity for that now, right? I really worked on this when the pandemic happened, which was like I'm just like I was expanding my team. I had just moved into this apartment that was 3 times what I was paying previously, and all of a sudden it was like, what if I can't make the money that I need?
Sure.
And I like there's a global pandemic going on, or I want to make more money, and there's a global pandemic going on. Okay, what perspective can I choose that actually supports me? And in the end, I chose that because of the global pandemic going on, I could grow my business unlike any other time previously. And I did over double X my income from the previous year in these
Sure.
last 12 months. And so it's like we're always at the source of it. We give our power away to circumstances. And a lot of the time, the circumstances are very real and very
Yep.
valid. But it doesn't mean that there isn't possibility outside of them. We just have to choose to see it that way. So I think that overall you're like really you are quite aligned. And I would just look at where are you holding yourself back? Because you are obviously very capable. And there's so like the vision is probably the universe's vision for you or life's vision for you is probably a lot bigger than you can even imagine it for
Right.
yourself. And all you have to do is stop arguing for it.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that because it's so true. I mean, if you're listening now, think about, what Lauren just said and think about it. I mean, I wrote down what limits are you putting on yourself? And again, I love that it's not a yes or no question. It's not even a multiple choice. This is a type of question where it's a fill in the blank and it's going to invest some time and energy. I mean, I know that some of the limits that I put on myself, I know that like fear is the fear of rejection in speaking, you know, is one of those things that once I get there, I'm gold. I'm gold to stand on a stage, to make people laugh, to engage, to get people to move off of where they are into a different place. There's a ton of stuff that happens from the moment that pops into your mind, like, oh my gosh, I should check into this, and that time on the stage. So whatever that looks like in your life, you know what, it is, but I love the fact that it's not, it's something I'm limiting myself, that fear, and that like, maybe they won't like my topic. I mean, fill in the blank, whatever it is for you, that's how that goes. So when you identify that, Lauren, with people, I mean, is it just kind of practice and repetition and recalibrating your mind, so to speak? We always want a magic bullet. We always want a get rich quick thing. We always want a pill to take, right? Or something to drink. So is there any tips that you have for me if I'm limiting my mindset right now? What are some things that I can do?
Well, I first want to acknowledge you, Dave, for asking that question because I love that you were like, "Coach me, I'm here," and we're willing to be just so. I love that. That was awesome. So, but in regards to your question, I mean, I would challenge yourself because it's really you're just always in the inquiry. What am I telling myself? Is it true? Can I reframe that or choose a thought that supports my continued growth? I think for you, what I would challenge you to do is to put together a speaking event online. I would do it online, like where you're kind of proving yourself wrong around all these sort of, fears that are inherent within us. I totally get the fear of rejection thing. And for me, what helped to shift that, and it still comes up, by the way, we never really like it. I still have a fear of rejection, and that's fine. It doesn't
Sure.
mean I don't buy my stuff, right?
Right.
Um, but that power, I've definitely lessened it through showing up in front of people and seeing them engage with my stuff. Um, you could do like some sort of online I don't know, workshop or something
Sure.
about your number one best-selling book, or I don't know,
Sure.
anything for fun, and started to view yourself in that light. And in that way, the action is supporting the belief because you're going to prove wrong so many of the limits that you previously were placing on
Sure.
yourself.
So, and I think that, so like I do actually, it's odd for the last probably 7 years, I've done every 6 years, I've done monthly trainings online, do them for free. This year we're doing the top business blind spots, what companies struggle with. And actually we'll be doing ours shortly on communication. The blind spot is my communication is fine, right? I don't have any problems. So I've been doing those. The interesting thing is I think it's more of a mechanical thing now that you say that. And so I want to ask a really weird question. Now, I would love to speak to as many, and I'm going to use numbers, and the numbers doesn't matter, but I'm just using them. Like 100 is like some kind of milestone, or 1,000 or 10,000, right? There's these milestones, whatever they look like, you know. And so, interestingly enough, when I like the one we have this week is, I'm going to say 35 people signed up. Okay. And some of them I know, the vast majority of them I don't know. They found me on social media, whatever. So I think I believe that there's a good message. I believe the delivery of the message is going to be solid. You're going to definitely get good content in that hour investment. I don't know if it's a mechanical thing in thinking thoughts, actions, and beliefs. My thought process is this is good stuff. Okay. And again, I'm going super simple just because I have a simple brain. My actions are I kind of do these actions and have other people help me. And then my beliefs are this is what I love to do. This is taking me to what I want.
Mhm.
What derails this, Lauren, is when like 35 people show up and 15 or 35 sign up and 15 show up, or even 20 sign up. I'm like, why is there not bigger numbers? And again, trying really hard not to worry about the numbers. So where does this fit in the thoughts, actions, and beliefs? What am I missing?
What you're missing is the energetic component, which I know does not resonate with everyone, but I really recommend people read books like Secrets of a Millionaire Mind or anything by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Really understanding that there is a very real connection between the thoughts you're thinking and the physical reality that you are living. And this is what quantum physics is showing us right now, is just we're just getting a reflection back of what it is that we're thinking about.
Okay.
It does dictate, the actions that we take a lot of the time. But what I just heard from you is, you know, I get 35 people signed up for my trainings, right? And in that belief, that's what's being created for you.
Okay.
The way that you could shift that is, this is okay. I've had 35 people sign up in the past, but I'm always working on reaching out to more, or sorry, gaining a larger reach.
Hmm.
I'm ready for more people. I'm working through what's not there. There's so many people that need this information.
Sure.
Uh, really looking at, okay, if my thoughts are a self-fulfilling prophecy, what am I claiming to be true about my business, about this particular situation that isn't serving me? And it's not that you have to convince yourself that there's 100 or 1,000 people signed up. It's that you have to not state like, this is how things are, and I don't know why that they are that way. And what will happen? Okay, I had this about my Instagram account for a long time. I can't grow above 8,000 people. This is how many people I have. It stayed that way for over a year. Doesn't like I put so much incredible content and people don't la 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 la.
Yeah.
I had that for a long time and like I don't have the swipe up thing. I've just
Yeah.
freaking around it. As soon as I shifted that to, people really love my content, more people deserve to hear it. Um, I had and I did some work around that. I had a friend reach out who was doing like a giveaway and she asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And I said yes. And I gained 1,000 followers from that within a few days after like a year or two of not shifting it. Right? But I had to shift from the story of like, why can't I grow
Wow.
my freaking Instagram account? So what I would say, Dave, is just choose a different perspective on it from
Okay.
like it's not bad or wrong that you have that many people. I think it's great that you've got people showing up for them
Sure.
consistently. And you really believe that this information is meant to serve more and see what shows up in an energy or in a thought process that is aligned with more. And it'll be, people reaching out and offering to share it for you, or an ads expert making a recommendation, or all kinds of different things that are
Sure.
going to open you up. And that's the other thing too. And if you're not into manifestation, that's fine. Our brains, we have what's called the reticular activation system. And basically what that is the part of your brain that sorts through relevant information. So we literally can't see all of the incoming information or can't take in the information that our brain deems to be irrelevant for us. So you're walking through a crowded room, somebody says your name, and you hear that above all of the other conversation because the part of your brain that sorts through incoming information said this is relevant to Lauren, this is
Sure.
relevant. So when we're saying things about our business, I can't get clients, you actually don't then get to see all of the ways in which you could be getting clients because the brain is literally like, oh, she doesn't want that information. She says she's not getting clients. I'm going to show her a whole bunch of evidence for that.
Okay.
So, I really do believe in the manifestation side of things, but you don't have to understand.
Sure.
You're creating your reality based on the thoughts that you're thinking.
Wow.
So what's a new thought? So, and I could ask you, Dave, what's a new thought that's aligned with and open to possibility of more people coming in?
Yeah. Wow. And I would have to really sit with that because, I don't want to just say it and then it not be part of me. It'd be like, I guess I have just kind of, I've reserved the fact that this is the way it's going to be. And I think this is a great message for people listening. If your sales are struggling, whatever it is, whatever isn't where you want it to be in your business or in your personal life, to what Lauren's saying is a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're allowing it to happen. And so it's so easy, especially in sales. I spend time with sales professionals and I've heard pretty much every excuse that's out there. It's the government, it's the weather, it's the company, it's the customer, it's the competition. I've heard all of these excuses. It's rare for people to say it's me.
And
I need this.
it's interesting because for every person out there arguing for their limitations, there's somebody else that's killing it, with a similar product, a similar business, with all the same circumstances, but they're choosing not to see the limitation as a reason why
Sure.
they can. And that's the difference.
Wow. So I think of it as you're going to use energy. So you can either use energy to limit yourself or you can use energy to propel yourself, right?
Yeah, and I think when I asked before, like, what's a belief that's aligned with where you're going, it can really just be as simple as like this information, because you said it, this information, it's really good. It deserves to be out in front of more people. Like that's already true for you.
Yep.
That's not you have to try and convince yourself of, but that's going to open you up to so much possibility for growth of that audience that, we can't seem to get more people watching this ever was going to be able to. Right.
Sure.
So watching your thoughts, and I catch myself all the time. Like, I was just having a conversation with a coach of mine saying, like, I'm telling myself that I can't have X, Y, and Z because I don't have enough people signed. And she's like, well, that's not actually true. Someone else is doing it with half your audience. Like, so we just are constantly placing limitations, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's the world we live in.
Sure.
And our power is in catching it and then being like, well, is that true? I had a story for a long time around I can't make more money until I really have like all the tax stuff figured out, um, which I know is like it's it's so significant for a lot of business owners. And
Sure.
then yeah, like, well, is that true? Or if I made a whole bunch of money, could I pay people to help me with this? And the answer
Right.
was, and so it wasn't that I couldn't make more money before having the fancy accountant and everything. It was that I
Right.
was telling that and I wasn't letting myself grow beyond a certain point.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, that's so cool. So I'm hearing shift your mindset is what I'm kind of hearing. That's what I wrote down. And so what my homework is today is to kind of understand what's limiting myself, whether it's in this specific situation or life in general. And as we come in for a landing today, what do you do once you've identified that stuff? I mean, what is it that kind of then, what's the bowl on this package, so to speak? What's the final step, if there is one? What do I do once I've identified this and be like, yeah, you know what, I do deserve this or whatever, fill in the blank. Is there a final step to that then?
Yeah. Understand that there's no circumstance that is going to prevent you from growing the way that you want or making the amount of money that you want unless you decide that it is. So the power is not in the circumstance, the power is in that you gave the circumstance power over you. So, you know, there's so many solutions, especially in the age of the internet. Every thing we could throw in our way as to why. And I mean, I get there's people with brick and mortar businesses that were drastically impacted. There's also people with brick and mortar businesses that took things online and have made $1 million in the
Sure.
last, right? And they saw that as being potentially available to them. So I think it really just comes down to discovering what that limit is and asking yourself, is that true? Like, is it actually true that I can't make the money that I want with the audience that I have? That's a big one that I see in the online community. And I just discovered a coach. I have her speaking in a mastermind of mine next month, who she has a Instagram audience of 2,000 people and a Facebook group of about 4,000. And she just did $1 million in sales in the last month
Wow.
because she did not coordinate or sorry, correlate the audience size with her ability to make money. Right.
There you
So
go. Yep.
going up and selling over and over, and she believes people will buy multiple offers, and so they do. And like, so it's just like there are no limits. We decide that there are limits and we give our power away to them, but you can always find someone who's proving that limit
Wow.
wrong.
That's awesome. If you're listening and if that resonates with you, I want to just encourage you to actually take an action rather than just, say, oh, it was great and feel bad or feel good, whatever. I think that that's where, again, you think of the thoughts you're thinking right now as you're listening to this. And I'm looking at this going, holy cow, I got my own work that I have to do. And so the action becomes doing something about it, investing some time, investing some energy in, fixing it, learning more, coming alongside somebody like Lauren, whatever that looks like. But there's usually a next step once you've been kind of exposed to this type of information. So that's awesome. One last question, I'm going to let you go. If you, what do you feel comfortable telling people? One thing that most people don't know about you that you feel comfortable sharing?
Um, I'm really open online, to be honest. So probably not long ago, I had all this significance around starting my business with a lot of debt and actually growing it with debt as well. Like I went into significant like credit card debt to get my
Okay.
business started. And I had all this like weird significance about it. Like, even though I'm making all this money, if people knew, that I also had debt, they would think that I was blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I've since let all of that go. And I actually see debt now as being this like huge asset that I had that allowed me to grow my business the way that I, um, but I still don't. I mean, when I started my business, I was over $50,000 in debt. And I still am like weird around actually sharing the specific numbers.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but I think it's important to talk about because, like, I mean, that's a whole other conversation of like, what is the story I have about debt? Is it actually true that it makes me a bad person? Like, could
Sure.
I try this another way? And guess what? When I started seeing it another way, it started going away and I was making all this money to pay it off and
There
stuff.
you
But it's
go.
As long as I saw it as being a problem, it was very stubborn.
Awesome. Well, if you're listening, Lauren would love to borrow you some money and not have to pay it back because she doesn't see debt as a good or bad. So that's so cool. Thank you so much for all this information. If people have been exposed to this for the first time, or this is something that is reminding you of something that you've actually heard before, and they want to get in contact with you, Lauren, what's the best way for people to connect with you to talk through some of the things that this might have brought up in their life?
Yeah, so I have my own podcast. It's called The Aligned Entrepreneur, and it's everything we talked about today, but hundreds of episodes. Well, not hundreds, about 100 episodes now. But people can find me on Instagram at Lauren C. Saunders, and that's kind of the place where I bring it all together and share all of the things. And there's a lot of my voice and face on the internet if you're interested.
That's awesome. And I didn't get to all the stuff that I want, so I'm going to have to get you back here and continue to part two of this. But holy cow, took a bunch of notes. Thank you so much for, just revealing some simple, course corrections that we can take. A lot of them aren't huge, which is awesome. And they might be easy on the surface to implement, take a little bit of time, obviously, to do that. But thank you so much for that. I'm going to figure out what's limiting myself, and I'm going to work on that. And I'll definitely report back to you and let you know if I run into any snags. Do you help people kind of with that type of stuff? Is that some of the stuff that you work on your end?
Yeah, I've got different group programs and things. I do have like masterminds and a one-on-one, but they're for people that are building online businesses as well. Although I have a variety of offers that I launch every couple of months that are more about mindset, self-development, identity work, beliefs, all that kind of stuff. And I think what you'll find, Dave, is with making those small shifts that we talked about, big things will open up for you. It's like this sounds for someone that's new to this, they're like, yeah, okay, but tell me like the 10-step marketing strategy. And I'm like, it's not going to matter if you're not doing the inner work. But it's incredible. One small shift can have like just your business absolutely explode for you. So I really encourage people to embrace it, be open to it. 10 minutes a day of this work can change your entire life.
That's awesome. Magic bullet. That's all people want to find is the magic bullet, right? Until we find that, we'll continue to on our quest here. So thanks again so much for hanging out, and I appreciate all your work and all this information, and look forward to learning more from you.
Thanks so much, Dave. It was really, really fun.